Good afternoon and welcome to Orient Live. It is the greatest fixture in the footballing calendar. It is Easter weekend, it's Good Friday and the O's are in that playoff pack still and on the hunt for some crucial points to hopefully keep that playoff dream alive. We'll be bringing you all the action here and the sun is shining at Brisbane Road and we are delighted to be bringing it all to you here direct and live, and I'm delighted to be joined in the studio this afternoon with Joe Widdowson and a very special guest. It's Matt Porter, who was of course our first ever guest on Orient Live as well, so a bit of a blast from the past. Yeah. Welcome, Matt.
Sorry, it feels a long time ago.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. We've come a long way since I think 5 years ago when you were last on the show. But what a great position we're in at the moment.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? And those last two away games have really given us that opportunity to attack these last four matches of the season. You know, I think probably in reality, when we had that little blip, most people thought we were out of it. But what's happened over the last few days has given us real hope again, particularly with the uncertainty at Reading. No one knows what's going to happen there over the next few weeks. So it's all to play for.
It is, and I think, thinking back to that National League season, was it Solihull Moors on that Easter weekend? It feels like such a poignant moment in the fixture list this Easter weekend. I'm excited. I don't know about you, Joe.
Yeah, I think as a player, you know, it's that time of the season where you always kind of, you know that you're literally edging towards the finish line, and I think, you know, as Matt said, it's great that there's still the opportunity there, isn't it, to go and achieve something special. So, yeah, hopefully the boys can just really attack these next two games over the Easter weekend and you know, be with a good shot of creeping into those playoffs.
And Barnsley, of course, today, new manager, been in a bit of a shaky run of form, I think it's fair to say, but it's a winnable fixture and we're in good form out of the last few games and we've got to continue that and probably win every game now.
Yeah, that's got to be the aim, hasn't it? 12 points would give us every chance. 10 probably just about in there. Anything less than that and it might be tricky. So, you know, we can play with some freedom, we can play with positivity and we can attack them, because realistically Barnsley are coming here today without too much aspiration of reaching that top six. I'd say that, you know, they won their last game but they've fallen out of it in recent weeks. So, you know, maybe they've not quite got their flip-flops on, but they might not be coming here at full 110%.
Well, we'll take a look at them in just a bit, and we're going to take a look and see at the team that Richie's opted for. But first, let's hear from him and get his thoughts ahead of this afternoon's fixture.
It's a big period in the football calendar, Easter weekend, and it could be a season-defining one.
Yeah, well, you've got within 72 hours you can make 6 points up on teams. So, you know, usually when you go Saturday to Saturday, the gap can increase, but it takes longer. So the fact that you can get 2-3 points in quick succession is a positive for us, because we're the ones that are chasing, and hopefully first and foremost Barnsley Friday bank holiday should be a full house. We need the atmosphere to be like Man City. We need it to be a really intense atmosphere. Barnsley have got good players, they're a good team, they've underachieved this year, and for the majority of the season it looked like they were going to be in and around the playoffs, but they're a good side, they've got some good players. But we need our stadium to be at it. We need it to be like the Man City game.
And of course, in that reverse fixture against Barnsley, it was a statement victory really towards the beginning of that really good run of form. Are you hoping for a similar statement on Friday to really carry us into the final run-in?
I'd love a similar statement, absolutely. I'd love the same scoreline, but the person on the pitch will be vastly different, especially from them. They had a load of injuries that day, especially at centre back. They've got more or less all of the players back fit now, so. We don't expect it to be the same as that. You know, they just had a great result off the back of the beating Bolton 4-1. So we're well aware Barnsley in this league are a good team. So we're well aware how difficult it can be. We just got to make it as intense, as athletic as possible, because you know, we're the ones that are playing for something.
And of course, it is going to be a hectic 72 hours, as you've alluded to. How are the squad looking, injury-wise, fitness-wise, as we come into it?
Yeah, Ollie O'Neill is.
There we go. Top stuff there from Richie. Let's take a look now let's take a look at the starting lineup and see how the O's are shaping up. He was just talking about the injury worries. Thankfully, we've got some bodies back in. Ethan Galbraith returns to the side. He starts at right back this afternoon, and Jack Crow's on the opposite side of defence in left back. Omar Beckles and Romani Edmonds-Green partner at the heart of defence, and Josh Keeley's the man in the sticks behind them. In midfield, the skipper is Dan Pratley alongside Jordan Brown, and then the three ahead of them two is Dan Adjei on the left, Randall Williams on the right, and Jamie Donnelly through the middle, with Charlie Kelman, League One's leading goal scorer, leading the line for the O's today. And on the bench, Noah Phillips, Brandon Cooper, Don Ball, Jalang Jaisimi, Sean Clare, Dylan Markandé and Azim Abdullah. So I think a team sheet with Ethan Galbraith on is always a team sheet that is a good one. It's a really big boost to see him back, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think he's, as we've said many times this season, he's such an important player, isn't he? All the different sort of strengths and attributes that he brings to the team. I think equally, great to see Omar back in there as well. And the defence, I think, is looking a lot more familiar, a lot more, a lot more kind of solid and familiar. So, yeah, good to see Ethan back, Omar as well, and I think it's a strong lineup today.
Ethan's such a special player in the sense that not many teams would look and go, oh, well, our right back's back in the team. What a boost that is for our attack. He's just that good, isn't he?
Yeah, what he can do with the ball from pretty much any position on the pitch is a massive asset to us, and we've seen that when he's not been playing, what we've missed from him. And I think ideally Richie wouldn't have him in the team at right back, it wouldn't be what he'd be looking for. But obviously with Tom James unfortunately doing his shoulder on his return from injury, it makes sense for Ethan to be there. But because he can contribute in other areas of the pitch as well, then the value of him being there goes beyond just the position that he's playing in.
Absolutely, and you've touched on it already, Joe, but it is a defence as well that he's a familiar face, and we've looked really good with him in that back line. And Omar Beckles as well, we spoke about him last game, but what a welcome return he is for this crucial stage of the season.
Yeah, absolutely huge. I think before his injury, he was probably Player of the Year in my opinion. I think he's been outstanding. And then obviously, apart from making that defence sort of more solid, he brings that presence, that experience, vocal leadership, all those qualities that you need, especially at this time of year when there's still a lot to play for.
Absolutely, and just finishing off the back line then with Romani Edmonds-Green and Jack Curry. It's quite a youngish, not necessarily inexperienced, but to have Omar in that back line marshalling it, he's another one whose presence was missed and it's needed.
I think that's the difference now, having Romani and Omar sitting there with Prats just in front of them as well. We can look through that team, Keeley, Donnelly, Curry, Galbraith. The talented young players are there for all to see, but they need gluing together with the experienced pros, particularly now when the pressure's on. If Barnsley were to score first, we've got to keep our heads. We've got to have that ability to manage the game today. Perhaps a couple of games recently that we've lost, we could put down to game management, not being at the level that it should have been. So by having Omar back in the team, that's definitely a plus in respect to that.
And looking at the shape of the team then, in the last few games you've seen maybe Jordan Brown or Sean Clare as the one holding midfielder and a bit more of an attacking with 2 8s or 10s, but it's looking like maybe a slightly more pragmatic approach. Pratley and Brown maybe both playing a bit deeper. Do you think that's an indication of maybe the scrappiness we might expect from this Barnsley side?
I think it's definitely paying Barnsley a bit of respect in terms of they've got good players. Yes, they don't have too much to play for, but they've just had their new manager announced. Perhaps players that'll be an incentive for players to want to perform and do well. But it's also, I think, as much as I've enjoyed seeing the 2 8s, particularly Mansfield away when I thought they were both really good, I think that familiarity of Pratley and Brown, they know each other's game. I think it's kind of tried and tested. We know what we're going to get from them too, and I think depending on how the game goes, there's always I'm sure the opportunity to tweak the formation and go back to the 2 8s if needed.
We're calling them the 2 4s, but that's almost doing, I think, both of them a disservice. Yeah,
they both contribute a lot more than just that sort of sitting role, don't they? So it's been the ability for us to, or the options for us to do those different things in midfield, whether it's 2 sitting or 2 pushing on or whatever, that have been perhaps the answer that Richie's been looking for. Sometimes he's found it, sometimes he hasn't. But that's been what's perhaps changed, a bit in a number of games recently. So it'd be interesting to see how they do today. But ultimately, Pratley and Brown's being there alongside each other in that position is how we've started the majority of home games, I would say, in the league this season here in E10. So, it's been tried and tested. We know we've got Don Ball on the bench. We know we've got Sean Clare on the bench. We know we've got options. So it makes sense to me.
Turning 40, I think next week is his birthday, I believe. It's ludicrous, really, that he's still out there. He looks, I don't know, he looks like 37. A spring chicken still. He looks, he looks fitter than me, that's for sure. What a kind of an asset he is, even at his age. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's incredible. Just the fact that he's still got the appetite and the drive to still want to come in and train every day and push himself to the limit. And we see it's not like he's sort of slowing down. Well, maybe slowing down, but he still gives everything. You know what I mean? He leaves absolutely everything out on the pitch every time he plays. And I think he's just, obviously the coaching staff, they know how much of an example he is to the rest of the squad. Do you know what I mean? And the standards that he sets and what he brings and the influence that he has on the team is huge still, and that's why he's still, you know, an important player and playing today.
If you look at the squad when Joey was here, you know, had Joby McAnuff performing that role, you know, in your latter years of your career, what are you contributing on the pitch, but also what are you contributing off the pitch, particularly when there's a lot of younger players in the squad, you know. So when Joby retired, that left a hole in the squad that we thought was going to be almost impossible to fill. But Prats has come on and done that and more, to be fair, because of the age that he's managed to continue playing regularly at League One level. So I think it's what he gives us when he steps over the line, but it's also what he gives us in training. He sets the example. You know, he's the hardest worker in training. He's a great mentor for the younger players. He's a brilliant advocate for the football club. You know, I think he's an immaculate professional.
And obviously with 2 games this weekend, him starting today, he's been pretty capable of getting through 90 minutes, which is even more impressive than, I know maybe sometimes we've had to manage his minutes, but is that maybe an indication of just how important Richie sees him to the game? I mean, this is probably on paper the tougher game than Easter Monday. We're probably looking to him for that leadership, especially today. Yeah,
I think so. I think, you know, Richie's probably looked at him for he's unlikely to play in both games, and today's the first game, isn't it? You know, you have to deal with what's in front of you, and it's a huge opportunity playing at home against a strong team, and I'm sure that's kind of factored into his thinking, into putting him into the team today. You know, it's important to kind of try and get 3 points initially, especially playing at home, and then, you know, take care of Monday as and when that comes around.
Well, just a quick reminder today that if you're watching along live on our YouTube stream, then you can follow all the action with us here on Orient Live. If you're watching along from the UK, then you can pick up an audio pass to listen along with the match commentary, and international fans, you can watch along with the streaming pass for just £10. Head over to the Match Centre on the Orient website to pick that one up. And now let's take a quick break and hear from another Orient legend. It's time to hear from Mr. Terry Howard.
Bit of Good Friday football here today, big game versus Barnsley. What are your thoughts going into it?
Well, you know, we're in that position where it's a must-win, really. You look at it, you know, we've got to keep the pressure on. I think about 3-4 weeks ago, if you'd have said we'd be in this position now, after the defeats we'd had, you'd have been very happy to do so. You know, it's not in our hands, but if we keep winning, who knows, it might be.
And as a player, what were these Easter schedules like when you got 2 games in 4 days? Yeah,
I mean, listen, going back, it used to be a bit tougher than that. We had times where I think it was 2 in 2 days, 2 in 3 days. So, but yeah, listen, and it's at the end of the season, so it's always tough. You know, you start feeling them injuries that you've had, that sort of you've been playing with a little bit. You know, you start feeling more this time of year. But if you're winning and you're playing well, you don't feel them so much.
And obviously, there's a lot of games in a short space of time. How much can that bring to us in the final 4 games of the season when we're really back in it again? Yeah,
well, listen, it's everyone and everything's important now. You know, we're at the business end of the season. You know, there's no time for mistakes. You know, we've got to start. I always say, you know, when I do this, that we must start fast. We've got to impose ourselves on the game. No different today. You know, let's take the game to the opposition, and hopefully come away with the 3 points.
Charlie Kelman is a man in form, isn't he?
Absolutely. I read a stat the other day. I think he's scored more goals than anyone in all of the leagues at the moment, like since Christmas, which is phenomenal. And I think when you think only one of them was a penalty as well, he's, you know, the boy's absolutely on fire at the moment. And listen, it's good reward for him. You know, there was always that little question mark. People saying, you know, he works hard, but, you know, he needs to, you know, score some more goals. When he's doing that now. I mean, his work rate's never been a problem, you know, and I think he's getting his reward now for all that hard work.
And retro day here today. Any personal favourite Orient retro kits?
Well, I've already seen Karen Harrison in the one of our, I think it was the 1991 kit. You know, so any kit that I wore was always a favourite with me.
Right then, they've talked about him there, the man of the moment, Charlie Kelman. I mean, we've spoken about him for weeks now, but he's almost leading the surge. He's taken this promotion race by the scruff of the neck and dealing with it with his own hands.
Yeah, he's come back into form at the perfect time, hasn't he? And he's, you know, we know what a good finisher he is, not just from this spell, but with his previous spell with us. You know, he's got that natural instinct in the penalty area. He can find those pockets of space. He can get in behind his man. He can finish first time. He can finish with either foot. You know, I mean, for him now to be the leading scorer in League One is a testimony, because he's had to do a lot of it on his own this year. You know, Dan Aggie's been up there for some of the time, but there hasn't really been a natural replacement for him or a substitute to give him a rest or anything like that. So he's had to carry 90 minutes week in, week out. Started to look a little bit tired, But then all of a sudden, found some form, and some of his finishes in the last week have been amongst his best, I think.
I mean, he turned the game around on Saturday against Crawley. We're running out of words for him.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. I think, you know, we've all enjoyed his goals recently, but I think the thing I like most about Charlie is, like, as a bare minimum, he works so hard. He's such a handful for defenders. You know, his work rate. I feel like he's a very, like, well-rounded player. He's got a lot of good attributes. His touch is good. His hold-up play is strong. He's mobile. He can run in behind. He's a great finisher in and around the box. Technically, really tidy. So there's just, like, a lot of different attributes to his game. And then obviously recently now, with the confidence that he's playing with, he's finding the net, and he's just looking. Yeah, he's just in great form, and he's looking, like you said, Ollie, like he's kind of taken on that responsibility, you know, to say, look, I'm the man here. I'm going to get the goals, and I'm going to make something happen.
And if you want your striker to start scoring a couple of goals every game, it's about now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, you know, he's 20 plus. He's potentially got 7 games still to play. You know, so I think for him to be in form now, it takes the pressure off some of the. We've got a lot of attacking players to support him around the team, but a lot of the time the pressure on scoring is on his shoulders. So for him to be able to deliver on that is a real boost for us.
And let's just talk about those attacking players around him today. Then Adji and Williams are the 2 wide players, and the quality of Donny in the middle. There's a lot of pace, there's a lot of directness in there, and there's a lot of quality. We've got to take this game to Barnsley and getting amongst goals ourselves. Yeah,
definitely. You know, there's a lot of talent there, and a lot of kind of problems really that we can cause Barnsley there. I think, you know, I'd like to see our 2 wide boys just, like, feed them the ball early and just be really positive and direct. You know, we've seen, you know, Dan, when he's on his game, I don't think there's a fullback in the league that can live with him. You know, when he's at it and he's on song, he's really difficult to play against. And yeah, you know, hopefully we can kind of get those guys on the ball in attacking areas early, feed them, get them confident, and start bright, you know, with a real tempo, and take the game to Barnsley.
Absolutely. Well, kick-off is just under 15 minutes away, so make sure you lock in for this one. And we're going to take a look at the visiting side very shortly, but first let's hear from the man of the moment. It's Charlie Kelman.
It was tough. We knew that they were going to be a tough team to play against in the first half, and it was hot, inhaling dust in the first half. But we knew once we stayed in the game that our quality would shine through in the end. And yeah, another 2 goals for myself. Buzzing to be in the position I am, but we've got 4 games to go, and that's my main focus. I knew that I would score because of the momentum of the game. You know, we scored and then we get a penalty straight away, and the momentum's with you. I had no doubts. I just step up and hit it confidently, and next thing I know, I was in the corner celebrating. I'll be honest, there's 4 games to go. While it's nice, I haven't achieved anything yet. I just want to keep going, and like I say all the time, I want to be in the playoff places. We've got a brilliant chance this coming weekend, so you know, we can't affect other results, we can only affect ourselves, and whether I score or not, I want to make sure that we get the 3 points or 6 points come next Tuesday. They've got quality players. My good friend of mine, Stephen Humphreys, and obviously Davis, Kilo Dunn and Jallo, and these different types of players that can cause you problems. We know that they'll be a threat, and they'll be coming here to, you know, I know they haven't got anything to play for, so to speak, but they're playing for pride, and sometimes when teams do that, you know, they're more difficult to beat. But you know, we saw what they've done against Bolton, so we have to make sure that we're at it come 3 o'clock tomorrow. You know, it's not going to be easy because, you know, Barnsley are a tough side, and obviously Cambridge are fighting for their lives, so it's going to be a tough period. But we know that we've got the quality within the squad to, you know, go and fully go and get 6 points. But we're not focused on the Cambridge yet, we're focused on Barnsley come tomorrow, starting fast and taking the game to them, and hopefully getting the 3 points. They can be massive for us, and I mean, we saw it against City, we've seen it numerous times this season, Derby, so yeah, it's going to be massive, especially for what we want to achieve as a collective. It doesn't just come from us players or staff, it comes from the fans as well. When we feel their passion, it can just drive us on that extra percent, and that extra percent sometimes can win you a game. So I think we'll just be focused. We need your support for the next 2 home games, but most importantly for the next 4. We're enjoying playing in front of you guys every week, and just make noise and be behind us from minute 1 to 90. I enjoy hearing it. I wouldn't say it's the most popular, I'd just say it's the most, it gets repetitive, as the boys say, but it's always nice once I always say the best feeling in the world is scoring a goal. So, you know, I love hearing it. I've really enjoyed, you know, playing in front of these fans 2 years now, and you never know what the future holds, but I'm just enjoying my football, and hopefully we can get that song going again tomorrow.
Well, it would certainly be nice to see Kelman score again today. But let's take a look and see the visiting side. It's Barnsley who travel to E10, and it's Conor Hurahan's first game in charge as the permanent manager. He's obviously been caretaker in recent weeks, but let's see for the starting lineup that he's opted for. In goal is Kieran Flavel. Across the back line we have Josh Earl, Conor McCarthy, Mark Roberts and Jonathan Bland. Moving into midfield is John Russell, the captain Luke O'Connell and Adam Phillips. Stephen Humphreys and Fabio Giallo are the wide men, with Davies Keeler-Dunn the man up top. For Barnsley and on the bench is Joe Gauci, Dexter Lembakisa, Kelechi Nkwali, Corey O'Keefe, Barry Cotter, Jonathan Lewis and Josh Benson. So a really interesting one here, actually, and it's a bit of a tricky one to call. They had a really good turnout last week against Bolton. They've been a bit up and down.
I think they're one of the division's underachievers, aren't they? They wouldn't have expected to have been this far out of the race for the top six, but probably themselves and Huddersfield are the two clubs who'd look at it and say, we should be higher up. But there's so many big clubs in League One this year. Not everybody can occupy one of those spaces, and they're the ones who've dropped out. But with the likes of Keeler-Dunn, Connell, Humphreys, there's quality throughout that team. We obviously had an amazing result up at Oakwell earlier in the season, and for whatever reason it just hasn't really clicked for them consistently this year.
Let's take a look at some of the goals they've scored, because they were in and around the playoffs. They had a really bad run of form in the last kind of 6 games, bar that win over Bolton. But they're a team of quality. They've big players, big club. As Matt said, they're still a threat.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't too long ago they were in the Championship, so still a really big club in the division. Good players who, on their day, can be a real threat. And I think the problem with Barnsley this season has been their consistency, hasn't it? They at times have shown that they can be a really good side, but just not often enough. So sort of reason why they've had to part company with their previous manager and got a new one in. They've
scored only 1 goal less than ourselves, but they've conceded over 20 more. It is an indication of the kind of side they are. I mean, we saw it in the reverse fixture of that 4-0 drubbing we handed them, but they're there to be got at as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly 3, if not all 4 of their defensive line today is different to what faced us in December. So, I don't know the exact ins and outs of it, but it looks like they've not had a lot of consistency across that defensive section of their team, and maybe that's the reason, or that could either be the reason or the cause. It's I don't know which came first, the changes of players and the goals being conceded, or the goals being conceded and the changes of players. But either way, the lack of a settled back line seems to have cost them.
And I mean, we're obviously talking about them because they're the team we're playing, but it feels like it's that stage of the season, especially in this league, where it doesn't matter who you play, we've got to go out there and focus on ourselves, haven't we?
Yeah, it's all about us today, and I think it's just, we've been saying it for the last few weeks, haven't we? But it's just about kind of taking care of our own responsibilities and our own jobs, and going out there and making sure that we're at it, we're right, playing with a good tempo. I think it'd be important to try and get the atmosphere up and get the crowd kind of involved and vocal today. So I think it's important to start sharp, to be bright, to be kind of on the front foot, play with a good tempo, and really just try and take the game to Barnsley. And I think, and just be fearless. It's a huge opportunity. It's funny because there's been so many times where it's looked like we've been down and out. And one thing I think you've got to say about this team is they've shown great resilience. They just keep coming back and keep putting stringing results together to give themselves a chance. So look, I think it's about just going into the game with confidence, with fearlessness, and just giving everything.
Richie said in his interview that he'd like a similar statement victory to that one in the reverse fixture. It would be a statement, wouldn't it? This is the part of the season where you're looking at the other results constantly throughout the game. If we can lay out a big performance here, it sets us up for that final 3.
It would, and a statement victory in a performance is important, but the result is what matters at this point of the season, isn't it? You'd take a stinker of a performance and a 1-0 win rather than, look how well we played against Wigan and didn't take the points. Went to Blackpool, weren't as good, won the game. So I think it's all about the result. The fans getting behind us, from the start will be encouraging. And let's make sure that after 90 minutes we're not leaving the pitch wondering what if. Let's just go out there, because every game now is must win.
And as you've already alluded to, Barnsley have drifted away from it. There's not too much on the line for them. We need to bring that intensity ourselves. The players out on the pitch need to really kind of get the game by the scruff of the neck and go for broke.
Yeah, of course. We need to show that, you know, what's at stake for us. Do you know what I mean? And show our intent and how much we want it. Like you said, you know, for Barnsley, they'll have their own motivations and different incentives, but for us, you know, there's something really important on the line and the chance to achieve something special.
Well, kick-off is very nearly upon us. Let's just take a run through the Orient lineup one more time. Starting in goal for the O's is, of course, Josh Keeley across the back line. Ethan Galbraith returns from his knock to start at right back with Jack Curry on the opposite side of defence. Omar Beckles and Romani Edmonds-Green partner up at the heart of defence. Darren Pratley, the skipper, partners Jordan Brown in midfield with Dan Adjie, Jamie Donnelly and Randall Williams, the three ahead of them, and then leading the line, the league's top scorer, it's Charlie Kelman. And on the bench, Noah Phillips, Brandon Cooper, Don Ball, Jalan Jayassimi, Sean Clare, Dylan Markanday and Azim Abdullahi. What do you think the feeling is for them in the tunnel at the moment? It is do or die really. There must be a bit of nerves, but you've got to put that to the back of your head.
Yeah, I mean, it's one where you've just got to go out there with a positive mindset, haven't you? We've got to take the game to Barnsley, as we've said. We've got to not let anything going wrong, little disappointments get us down, and just stick to the game plan and, you know, make sure that we're leaving everything out there.
As we always say though, Joe, it's good pressure. We're looking in the right direction, of course, and that we've got to take that and put that spring in our step.
Yeah, you're right. It's nice pressure. Do you know what I mean? It's a chance to achieve something. You'd much rather be in this situation than be at the bottom of the league, trying to stay up. You know, fighting for wins. That's horrible. That's not a nice pressure at all. So, yeah, you know, I think, you know, the boys can hopefully just yeah, you know, be relaxed, be calm. You know, no matter what happens, whether they go a goal down, continue to play. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, hopefully we get a good result.
Well, hopefully they can put on a show for us here today in E10, and to tell us all about it with the commentary is Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock.
Over Bolton Wanderers, it was the first under Conor Houlihan